I'm heavily pregnant with a baby girl, and my dad's wife feels incredibly slighted that I harshly turned down her request to name my baby after her recently deceased mother to honor her. Posted by you/remarkable_roll_7685. I'm currently 29 weeks pregnant with a girl. My husband and I have already chosen her name, as well as 2 backups in case it doesn't suit her. My dad's wife lost her mother a little under a year ago. They were extremely close, and her passing was unexpected, so she's not coping well. My husband and I are trying to be as helpful and accommodating as possible, but we don't live in the same country as them anymore, so there isn't much we can do. Back in February, my dad and his wife came to visit us for 10 days to celebrate our son's birthday. This was our first time seeing them after her mother's passing, and their first time seeing me pregnant. Early during the trip, we had dinner together. We all started talking about my pregnancy and the baby, and when my dad asked if we had any names in mind, his wife stopped us. She asked if we could consider naming our daughter after her mother. She said she had been wanting to ask us this since she learned we were having a girl, and it would mean a lot to her if we could honor her mother like that. I don't think I have to justify why I wouldn't do that, but in case I do, I never liked her mother or thought of either of them as family. Even if I did, my husband doesn't like the idea of using our children's names as tributes, so we wouldn't name them after any of our deceased loved ones. My husband and I were taken aback. My dad looked a little awkward, so I think he was already expecting her to bring that up. I said I was sorry, but we had already chosen the name and weren't interested in changing it. The mood died a bit, but we did manage to change the subject and enjoy the rest of the evening. My dad's wife was quieter than usual for the next few days, but she didn't bring it up again until the final night of their trip. Everyone was at our place. She pulled me aside and, once again, expressed how perfect it would be for us to keep her mother's memory alive by naming a child after her. She started talking about how much she would have loved it and how a beautiful name such as hers shouldn't go to waste. I interrupted her and said there is zero chance we would ever consider naming our child after her mother. I told her it would never be up for discussion, and for her own sake, she needs to accept that and stop bringing it up. I was admittedly harsher than I'd intended, but I'm not sure she would have gotten the message otherwise. She barely spoke to me and my husband until she and my dad flew home the next day. My dad and I have been talking about this. He agrees with our refusal. He didn't really like his mother-in-law either, though he never admitted it, but thinks I shouldn't have turned his wife down like that. He told me she's still dealing with her mother's passing, and I should have been more sympathetic. He's insistent she wouldn't mind our daughter's name if we at least told her we'd consider honoring her mother. I don't think humoring her would have been the best call, but I am worried I was too harsh. Am I the jerk for telling my dad's wife I will never consider naming my child after her recently deceased mother? /relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk. She didn't take no when y'all politely said it, so harshly was the only way to get your point across. It's always weird when someone asks you to name a child after someone. It wouldn't even mean the same if you didn't do it because you wanted to. Ops response. When my son was born, my dad joked that his name was available, but didn't say anything beyond that and didn't complain about the name we actually chose. He later told me it was a joke and that he always thought it was a bad idea. Commenter 2. You owe her nothing, especially since you just call her dad's wife, so she doesn't even sound like a close stepmom. It's sad that her mother died, but what does that have to do with you or your unborn child? Don't let her emotionally manipulate you into changing your mind. Ops response. My dad started seeing her when I was already in college and he wasn't interested in remarrying at the time, so I never really registered her as family. I did live with them for a little while, but we had wildly different personalities, so we were never really close. Does Ops' dad's wife have any children? She does not and will not, tubes tied, from what I gather. I think she never wanted kids, but her mother always wanted grandkids. Was Op close to her dad's wife and her family? She doesn't know I didn't like her mother. I was careful to hide that and never treated her differently. But I'd assumed she at least knew we weren't close. Op's husband's thoughts on names. My husband's father has passed away as well, and his relationship with using names as tributes is different. I had briefly considered my late friend's name as one of our son's backups but gave up when I realized none of us would really feel comfortable with it. I don't think naming your children after people you've lost is inherently bad, but I do think that decision needs to be made carefully. How old is Op's dad's wife? She's 44. I'm 29, for the record. Is Op's dad the first marriage for his current wife, and was she living with her mother at the time? Yes, and kind of. They were living together, but because her mother had to move in with her. Does the wife have siblings? She's an only child, aside from a paternal half-brother she doesn't get along with. I don't know much about her family, but it doesn't seem any of her relatives are having kids right now. Update 3 months, 2 weeks later. Hey guys. I came here for advice a few months ago. I gave birth to a healthy baby girl back in May. She's now a month old and thriving. We're all in love with her. My husband and I decided to go with our first choice for her name. Truth be told, the backups didn't stand a chance, and it suits her perfectly. My dad stopped bringing up the subject of how I talked to his wife a few weeks after my first post. The last thing he said about this essentially boiled down to be nice to my wife, but for the love of God, don't name my granddaughter after my mother-in-law. He wanted to visit us this month to meet the baby, but I told him to wait a while longer. The house is a mess, and we're still getting used to having 2 kids. His wife has been very detached from anything that concerns my daughter. She spent the weeks leading up to my baby's birth radio silent. She usually lives on her phone and texts frequently, so I figured she was still upset. Both my and my husband's families like our daughter's name. My dad, in particular, complimented it a lot. His wife did not react to it. My aunt visited them recently, and she later told me that while my dad would show her pictures and videos of my daughter, his wife avoided the topic entirely and was cold whenever someone tried to get her to engage. To be clear, none of that ever bothered me. But this behavior was very out of character for her. When I was pregnant with my son, she created a group chat with my whole paternal family, and her mother, to start a countdown for his birth. She was my only acquaintance who protested when I said I didn't want pictures of my child posted online. About a week ago, my dad's wife called me. She reiterated that she felt I wasn't being very understanding of what she's going through, but apologized for how cold she's been lately. During the call, she explained that losing her mother had made her regret her decision not to have kids. Her mother had always wanted to be a grandmother, and she wishes she could have given her the opportunity to experience that. She took her mother's passing very hard, and it made her reflect on various things she wishes she'd done differently, but the news of my second pregnancy intensified that regret in particular. My dad's wife said that she'll always wish I'd named my daughter after her mother but still accepts the name I chose. She also told me she'll start seeing a therapist soon. I was mostly quiet during the call because, frankly, I didn't know how to react. Having since had time to think about what she said, I'm a little freaked out. It's still hard to explain how I feel, and this isn't even close to my top concern right now, but I didn't see this coming. I almost feel bad admitting this, but I'm very glad we're in different hemispheres. I can't imagine what she's going through, and I wish her nothing but the best, but I don't think being close to my family right now would be good for either of us. Thinking back to how I handled things when she first asked us to use her mother's name, I'm pretty sure I made the right call. I sincerely wish I'd been more polite, but humoring her would have probably led to a much bigger headache. I'm not sure when we'll see her again, but it won't be until next year. My dad will come visit us in October, but she won't come with him. When she does meet my daughter, I hope she's doing better. Right now, I'll focus on my children. Postpartum sucks, and my husband and I are still getting adjusted to being a family of 4, but we love both our kids so much. I don't know how I got so lucky. I almost definitely won't post again. I am very tired and very busy, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. Thank you. Edit to add, to those asking, I'm freaked out because I wasn't expecting her reasoning to be that she regretted not giving her mother grandchildren, as I stated in this post. I sympathize with her grief, and I'm glad she's decided to get help. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I think our stepmom is going through the grief of losing her mom. She was hoping that you naming your daughter after her would make it feel like her mom was still around. You did well by not naming your daughter after her. The good news is she realized it, has apologized for it, and she's seeking some grief counseling. Ops response. I'm very glad she's decided to start therapy. I feel like acknowledging that you need help is a necessary step, but actually going through with it is harder than it looks. I have a different experience with grief than she does. There was one specific time in my life when I lost many of my loved ones very quickly. I've discussed that in therapy, but I regret not working through it sooner.